love me so much more than I could ever know. Your love is deeper than this world will ever show. And all of life's beauty shines around this moment now. The sky and the cliffs, they seem to change my life somehow. And I will never be the same, will never be the same. Whoa, I will never be the same, never be the same ever again. Here I am waiting, Lord, my life is just for you. Please unfold all the plans that you would have me do. And if all the world's just a breath and nothing's here to stay, then all of the love we feel will save us anyway. And I will never be the same, never be the same. Whoa, I will never be the same, never be the same ever again.
Hello and welcome to SDAQ&A. How did you all enjoy seeing Chris and myself just off to the side doing our thing pre-show while the countdown timer was on? What do you guys think of that? Or would you prefer us to just not have our ugly mugs anywhere near the intro? Good to see you all here, and special guest today, Chris Vega, is back. Great to have you back again, Chris.
How you guys doing?
Hey, I really like that little spiral light in the background and your studio setup. It's looking really good.
So, a little side note: this is my wife's new office. Our 20-year-old decided the world was a little rough place, and he ended up moving back in, which we figured would happen once or twice before he finally gets out there. So
yeah, that's all right. That's good.
Yeah, we had to relocate the wife's office to. So if you hear some dogs tonight, it's because they're roaming around yelling at cats. And if you hear children, if there's children fighting in the background, it's because my boys are probably fighting in the background. So if you hear cooking, that's because there's cooking over there. So
that's all right. That's real life. real life
This will
goes
be a
on
real life,
around
yeah.
us. Yeah, I like that. We're a very real-based platform, warts and all. And just a few comments I'm just going to bring in before we start. Dexter wrote, I think, have I ever had Ron Numbers on the show? I did. Fascinating interview. So Ron Numbers sadly has passed away now, but he wrote, probably, if you were going to read one book that kind of reveals the truth about Adventism in a very scholarly way, a well-written way, a historian style approach, looking at the facts, not sensationalizing, not speculative. This is the book to read. Prophetess of Health, and a study of Ellen G. White by Ron Numbers. As I said, sadly, he has died and passed away, I think last year, maybe the year before. But I did do an interview with him, Dexter Lab, and it is an amazing interview. Just go, boy, I hope it's on Facebook still, because Facebook are deleting all the live interviews. Wow. Yeah, have a check and see, because if it's not, it will soon be up as I've been re-releasing season 2. It's in season 2 somewhere. So you might have to search Facebook. If you can't find it, let me know, Dexter, and it's coming up very soon on the re-release series that I'm doing. What I did notice as I was holding this up during the intro countdown timer there is, look at this, the picture that Reclaiming the Prophet and all of these guys. So in fact, on one of the authors is Jonathan Butler, who I interviewed with Ron Numbers at the same time. They were both on together. They knew each other very well, good friends. A lot of these guys that wrote this book, Reclaiming the Prophet, the progressive Adventists, a lot of them knew Ron Numbers very well. So I just clicked that they used the same picture. They're trying to reclaim
The picture
from the
it was
attack.
a nod, huh? It was like,
Yeah,
yeah, we know what you're doing.
it's like, yeah, you're putting her down. We do too, but we want to kind of revise her a bit. A friend of mine said they should have called it Revising the Prophet. I don't know if you know, you were probably watching the show. I've been putting this up a lot, that when the progressive Adventists finally got a chance to muster the courage to really kind of speak a positive note into progressive Adventism, after years of subtly undermining Ellen White, their book was banned within 6 days. So that's an interesting little thing that happened there. Now
Nothing to see here.
What was that?
You said nothing to see here.
Yeah, nothing to see here. That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. BDC says, Peter, is there another method of supporting rather than using PayPal? I appreciate you asking that, BDC. In Australia, there is. I'm open to ideas and advice if you're out of Australia, overseas. As I mentioned yesterday, I did a little plug for the expenses I have each month. Restream, Libsyn. I spend at least 100, maybe $150 a month just on expenses to keep these platforms afloat. And by the end of yesterday's program, Chris, I had two-thirds of the amount I need for this month into the account. So I really appreciate that. If I can just break even, I'm happy. So if
you need a Patreon account or something.
Yeah, I see you mentioned that in the private chat.
Yeah.
I
You
do
could
actually
post all
have
of your videos.
a Patreon account set up. I think
And
I was
then
annoyed that they
all of
take
that-
15%, though. That was the thing that got me. PayPal only takes 3%.
And
But
Adventists only
Patreon-
take 10, so
Yeah, so Patreon's 15. I mean, Patreon is a good way to go because you can post a bunch of stuff there that, excuse me, that you wouldn't normally post elsewhere, so people who get there have a benefit of additional content. So I might look into that more. And BDC, if you can think of anything, let me know. Emma Emma says nothing wrong with showing your handsome faces. However, I love the music with the video clips.
So I noticed
Excuse me.
some of the podcasters are doing a kind of an intro where the scene will tune in to the two people already talking, so they're already comfortable in conversation and they're not waiting nervously or whatever.
Yeah.
And the show will just kind of start mid conversation, and then the audience kind of like will catch up, and then they introduce topics.
Yes. They often will play. I mean, because we go live, it's harder to do that. But I've noticed that a lot of the podcasters will grab a catchy 30-second grab and play that immediately. No countdown, and then it goes straight into it. One thing, just talking about Patreon, and thanks to Emma, a good idea that people do comment on the clips. I often have my girls dancing in the ocean or something. A good idea about the Patreon is that a lot of I could post all the videos live there and totally unedit. What I'm doing on YouTube is going back now and just cutting the full long intros out so that as soon as people watch the show, it starts. There's not this big preamble that I have like this right now, because I usually do that because we're waiting for people to join the group and whatnot. So anyone else have any ideas? Let me know of other ways to support what I'm doing instead of PayPal. I think there's another one called Stripe or something as well. Dexter says Steve Daly feels several of those authors betrayed their friendship with Ron Numbers. It's funny. These guys, I don't know if you have followed much over when you were an Adventist, Chris, the writings of these guys, Eric Andreessen, John Butler, Denny 14, Larry Geraghty, Ron Gabriel, George Knight, Gil Valentine. A lot of those guys have really influenced me over the years with their incredible historical pieces, their works, their scholarly books.
Yeah.
But in many ways, they did more to undermine Ellen, in my mind, than actually elevate her. And I think they realized that as they're now getting older, and they wanted to go, hey, let's put her in a positive light. In fact, in the intro, I'm not going to rabbit on too much, but we're just waiting for a few more people to join. They mention something that kind of confirms my...
So I got something you might be interested in. There's a book called a guy named Whitney Cross, who was a historian.
Right.
And he does it's an historical book. It's really boring. But here's the title. The title is The Burned Over District. And it's by Whitney Cross. It was written in the 50s or something. And
Right.
It's the social and intellectual history of enthusiastic religion in Western New York from 1800 to 1850. So this is the burnt over district where Adventism, Mormonism, and all the Christian cults came out of this crazy sensationalism that was happening.
Would be a very interesting work.
Right. And I'm convinced that Adventists came because they dug the Erie Canal, like literally. Like someone's like, we need to get money across the state more efficiently. They dug a canal. It gave access to a bunch of poor people. That gave them access to land. Masses and masses of people moved out there. And it became this big, huge religious smorgasbord of ideas.
Yeah.
But there was no infrastructure. There was no real leadership. So the more crazier the idea, kind of like on TikTok, just spread like crazy.
Yeah. Well, and they were all within a 200-mile radius of each other.
Right. It's an amazing book.
What you're saying. You don't have it there. You can hold up, do you?
I could bring it up on the screen if I'm savvy enough, but
tell me what it's called again, and I'll just have a look, and I'll bring it up later.
I can do this thing. Oh, I got the other screen. So it's called The Burned Over District. Burned Over District. And I'd recommend it to all the Adventists, actually, because like the insights are
perspective, doesn't it?
Yeah, a lot of stuff that I thought was like, finding out there were like 12 other women prophets in the time period in that short 50-year period is kind of enlightening. Like, oh yeah, other people did this.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so if you can do the share, I can
Hang
share
on.
this.
Let's. Where are we? Here we go. I don't think I can do the share without getting rid of the last share. It won't let me do two.
Here, well,
But
let me try.
I think I
I'll do
can do it
each.
my end because we've got one share from your. I think I can try it my end.
Okay.
Let's see. How does that look? Can
Right
people
there.
see? Yeah, there
Yeah,
it is. That's it, isn't it? Yeah.
That's the book.
So
It's a tome. It's like it's a historical book. It's really dry
Yeah.
reading, but man, the insights in that have just like some of that mysticism kind of goes away.
yes,
Like,
when you put yes.
yeah,
What's
and
that?
this is he's not a religious scholar. He's not an Adventist scholar, which
No.
really helps. And he actually mentions the Millerites and he mentions the Mormons, but he also goes over the economics of the system. He goes over like the canal. He goes over, I don't know, things I wouldn't have thought about, right? But a lot of the things that I learned growing up, man, I'm about halfway through the book. Once I was getting through this book, like context was just king. And a lot of those just false ideas just melted away. I'm like, oh, this is common. This isn't, But the revivals of that period of time during this short little window of 50
Yes.
years, they were like how we use
Incredible.
TikTok today. Like,
Yes.
honestly, that's how I compare
It
it.
went crazy. Yeah.
Yeah,
Look
the
how when
newest fad
they
was the most religious idea, and the most crazy idea was the newest fad. Like,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Boy, I'm glad. I'm going to buy that. You can get it for $20 on Kindle. So
I
I'll get that.
will give you guys 100 copies. It's worth that much
It's
peace
worth
of
it.
mind. Let me tell you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm going to get a copy after the show. I'll download it. And yeah, we've nearly got enough to start. Just a quick reminder, everybody, I'm just looking at the YouTube just as an example. We've got no likes, and there's over 100 people watching on all the channels. So I just want you to pause for a moment, lean forward. If you're on Facebook, click the like button. If you're on YouTube, click the like, click the subscribe. Someone mentioned the other day that I need to turn on notifications. No, you got to do that your end. So go to the YouTube, click like, subscribe, and the notifications, and just write a comment. Just say hi. Facebook rewards engagement and similar content. So, okay, so we've got here an Adventist apologist, I think. No, Adventism is not cultish, because today we are talking about this idea that Adventism might have some cultish kind of vibes about it. And so, yeah, we're going to look at
So
that today. And my
I could
guest is
introduce
Chris.
the idea a little bit.
Say that again.
I could introduce the idea a little bit.
Yes, I'll hand that over to you in a second. I just had one more thing to say. I've just got to get my brain reminding myself. No, it's gone. A lot of people agreeing with what you're saying there about that location. And yeah. Oh, that's what it was. Yes, the Israel Damon case. When they found out what happened there, the trial of Israel Damon, and that went when Adventists found out how Ellen White was involved with the guy that got put on trial for all the crazy kind of stuff that was going on at their meetings, sacred kissing, throwing themselves on the floor, screaming as loud as they possibly could. Ellen White was in the middle of that and fully involved with it, and often going into vision. And Schley points out that Mrs. Baker was actually a visionary who was present with Ellen and James at the Israel Damon incident at Atkinson in Maine in 1845. So it was a melting pot of absolute, like you said, TikTok cray-cray.
It was TikTok. Yeah, it was the TikTok of the 1950s. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, everyone, welcome. It's great to have my guest, Chris Vega, here today. He was on the show 6 months ago. Go and check it out. He had left the church, I think, only a week or two before, and I wrote to him and said, "Mate, come on the show and share your journey," and he did. And it's a really great interview. Go and check it out. But Chris, what are we going to talk about today? Is there a cultish vibe to Adventism? Take it away.
So yeah, so that's a good question, and that's a hard question to answer, because when I was in the church, I would have said no, and I would have argued till I was arrogant. I was really, really arrogant, and there's something about like a cult type of thinking that makes you really arrogant when you think you have all the answers, and I really fell into that for sure. So, but coming out of the system, me and my wife went through something very dramatic, you could say, and it opened our eyes to a lot of things that we just wouldn't have seen had we not been gone through this stuff. So the one big takeaway that we learned is the behavior on the micro of like a social predator is the same behavior on a macro for a cult system. They're extrapolated systems. They're bigger, but it's the exact same behaviors that a single predator will do. And that was just an eye-opening, crazy thing to think about. And so we began to watch videos. We got our hands on every documentary we could find. We got the experts. We read some of their stuff. And then once we had a framework for what it looked like, then it was easier to go back and look at what we were in and what we believed. And then a lot of things fell into place. So that being said, I thought we could do a play game, because games are helpful for to understand. So I got a presentation that I'm going to present. I'm going to need the audience's help. The first half of the presentation is just info, so it's kind of boring, but
no, it's very interesting.
Yeah, it's definitions. So we have to have definitions in order to have a conversation, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But these definitions I think are helpful, and I'm not going to add to them. I'm just going to present them as they are. And if anybody in the chats, just kind of pay attention and make a little mental note or write something down, because after we get through the definitions, we're going to play pin the tail on the donkey, because I think that if you recognize what some of these definitions are, and this is my experience, and you could pull from some of the things that you thought or believed, and then ask yourself, well, where did I get that idea? And does it fit this definition? And I think that for me, it was really helpful to have concrete definitions and then compare the things I believe to those definitions. Like, for a small example, like if you were a Pathfinder, you were probably told to walk softly in the sanctuary. And I remember even getting scolded by elders for running in the sanctuary. And for forever and ever, I just assumed that was a thing, and maybe I didn't know it from the Bible, but it's not a thing. It's just one of those little behaviors that that I just accepted. And then there was a pledge about it in Pathfinders, and they wouldn't lie to me. I'm a kid. What do I know? So yeah, but looking back, going, wait a minute, that's like a control behavior. That's kind of creepy. Like, what? Yeah. Why did I do that? Why did I think that was something? Like, I imagine just, Jesus sitting around with his children, and they're running at him screaming, and the disciples are like, you need to watch softly in the sanctuary, child. Like, that's not in the story. It's just not.
It's the opposite, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So I would hold those two things, like what Jesus did with that, and then what I'm being told as a kid, and they didn't work.
Yeah. In fact, Christ's example, Jesus interacting with people, the disciples, every kind of human being, he almost shook things in a way that deconstructed systems. And maybe because systems become a kind of like corporations, they become an entity of their own. And a corporation, once it's set up, will function for generations, no matter who the leaders are. It's set up and off it goes. And the Adventist system, wow, you've blown my mind. If we see that as a predatory kind of
well, don't take my word for it. Take my word for it. What we're going to do, I don't want to destroy people's faith. That's not my goal. My goal is to like refine it, if at all. So I think let's get started, and we'll get into these definitions, and we'll share the screen. And I'm just I'll kind of talk in the background. I don't know if you have the picture in the picture or whatever, but we're just going to go over these definitions. There you go. Awesome. All right. So I put it on a tree. I don't know if I thought it was pretty, but I thought it was interesting. So the bottom there, the three books there on the bottom that we'll get to in a minute, those are the roots, and those are all the definitions. And then as we go to the top of the tree, we'll start to see some of the crazy fruit that's growing on the tree. So it kind of works out for this game. We'll go over the roots here at the beginning, go over the definitions. And like I said, I'd really ask the audience just to pay attention to these
Yes.
definitions. You don't have to agree with them. I have cited sources. I contacted the lady who I got the materials from. She's a cult expert. So I asked her permission to use her materials, and gave her a copy of the presentation when I was done, and she gave me the thumbs up. So she's
That's
a doctor.
great.
Yeah. So this is her definition. There are other cult experts that are out there. I thought
Yeah.
these were really good definitions because they reminded me of stuff in the Adventist system.
Yes.
So like I said, I'm just asking people to hold their thoughts while we read the definition. And then once we get to the game, go for it. Like, I'm going to ask you guys to post in chat. We'll see how we'll unfold the game as it comes, but just kind of hang on to your ideas for now, because this, I think it'll be really informative. So let's just get started.
That's great. And just a quick reminder, those watching, I want you to really focus on the PowerPoint right now, and that way we can really engage with it. So yeah, pens down, eyes focused. Let's get into it.
All right, so this is Dr. Jana Laylich. She has a website. You guys can look it up. I did not post it here, but I told her I would give her credit, so I put her in the presentation. So she has on her webpage just a couple of free resources, which is what I pulled most of these from. So these are not my ideas, but you'll see these are pretty common among other cult experts. You'll see a lot of these same definitions, but so I thought these were pretty helpful, at least for thinking about the system I was in. So I'm just going to read it. And like I said, try to hang on to your thoughts or write them down, because they'll come very important later, even if you disagree. So the group displays an excessively zealous and unquestioning commitment to its leader, whether alive or dead, regards his belief system, ideology, and practices as the truth as law. That one hit me like a ton of bricks, but like I said, we're not going to get into it yet. We're just going to do definitions. And you guys, please read them on your own as well. If you like one of them, hang on to it, because I bet you could remember something from the system you grew up in that would fit these categories. Questioning, doubt, dissent are discouraged or even punished, like the book we just talked about. So to be fair, not all these definitions apply, but a lot of them are generalities. They're broad, so you'll see. Mind-altering practices such as meditation, chanting, speaking in tongues, denunciation sessions, that's a big one that I can't say, working you to death, are used in excess and serve to suppress doubts about the groups and its leaders. So there's some kind of behavior that kind of like suppresses your thinking about things. So the leadership dictates, sometimes in great detail, how members should think, act, feel. This should ring bells. Members should get permission to date, change jobs, or marry. Or leaders prescribe what to wear, where to live, where to have children, how to discipline children, and so forth. Walk softly in the sanctuary. Yeah, if you're paying attention, you should have things come to your memory, but just hang on to those, please. The group is elitist, claiming a special exalted status for itself. Its leaders, its members. Example, the leader is considered a messiah, a special being, a prophet, an avatar, or the group or the leader is on a special mission to save humanity. That should ring a bell. I'm sure the Adventists have a mission that they're appointed to do by a couple of angels. You see where this is going? The group has a polarized us versus them mentality, which may conflict with the wider world society. I had no Sunday keeping friends. And I don't even understand why not now. That's ridiculous. But the leader is not accountable to any authorities. Unlike, for example, teachers, military commanders, ministers, priests, monks, rabbis, and mainstream religious denominations. In other denominational systems, they have a hierarchy that even the leader or the prophet is answerable to, which is curious. The group teaches or implies that a supposedly exalted ends justifies whatever means it deems necessary. So like I said, not all of these we're going to apply, but you'll see as we go. Excuse me. This may result in members participating in behaviors or activities they would have considered reprehensible or unethical before joining the group. So, this one might not apply, but I know there was a lot of pretense in Adventism. You would behave one way at church, even though you might have had a fight in the car as you drove up. So, there is behaviors that are hidden. This may lying to family or friends or collecting money for bogus charities. Not a lot of that happened. Adventists are on the up and up. I got to defend that, but there are some things that are shady. The leadership introduces feelings of shame or guilt in order to influence or control members. And I know we just had someone in a big conference, scold everyone for believing or thinking different things. Often this is done through peer pressure and subtle forms of persuasion. Subservience to the leader or group requires members to cut ties with family and friends and radically alter the personal goals and activities they had before joining the group. So I know a lot of people, sorry, I'm breaking my own rules, but I remember a lot of people that would just had to change their life because of Saturday. So
Yeah.
You'll see. The group is preoccupied with bringing in new members. The group is preoccupied with making money. Members are expected to devote an inordinate amount of time to group and group-related activities. Members are encouraged or required to live and socialize with other group members. The most loyal members, the true believers, feel there can be no life outside the context of the group. I think this one's important. When I left Adventist church, I felt a miss and I was lost. I felt in a sea of I don't know what the hell to do. They believe there is no other way to be and often fear reprisals to themselves or others if they leave or consider leaving the group. That one was like, goodness, I remember, sorry, I'm going to interject. I'm going to break the rules, but I remember like the people who walk away are going to be the biggest haters of the Adventists. Like that's that behavior and right there in that definition. I broke the rule.
No, it's good. It's good to, be flexible, because sometimes if you don't say it when you think it, you'll forget later, and that's a good point that you just made.
So yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, it wasn't so much that I felt that way. It's that like the definition says, no life outside the context of the group. Right? They believe there's no other way to be, and I know people that are still in because they think, oh, I have nowhere else to go. So something to think about, but we'll think about in a minute. So we're going to go on. Like I said, we'll get these out of the way. So this one's interesting. These are thought reform systems. So this is by the same doctor. These are a bit broader, but they're ways of thinking that help define a group. And then some of them should be really enlightful and scary. Not trying to scare anyone, but as we read these, do the same thing. Pay attention to them, maybe note them. And if you had something that you remember from Adventism that fits this category, just pay attention to that. I'm not saying it's a perfect fit, but I think it's worth paying attention to. So milieu control. The group controls all communication and information, like what books are published, which includes individuals' communion with himself. This sets up what Lifton calls, Lifton's probably another expert, a personal closure, meaning the person no longer has to carry on inner struggles about what is true or real. So if you get all your questions answered for you, you don't have to like wrestle through the problem. You just got to have more faith, right? Essentially, this prevents any time being spent on doubts, right? So I got some quotes that are coming to my head. I don't know about anybody else. There's a claim of authority, divine, supernatural, this is called mystical manipulation. This one should really stand out for you history buffs in the Adventist Church. There is a claim of authority, divine, supernatural, or otherwise, which allows for the rationale that the ends justify the means, since the end is directed by a higher purpose. Certain experiences are orchestrated to make it seem as though they occur spontaneously. Look at me holding up this heavy book. The person is required to subordinate herself or himself to the group or cause and stops all questioning of who can question a higher purpose. Self-expression and independent action wither away. I'm like, that's interesting. And I remember, like, you know, people having convenient visions to stop doubts, right? Like,
Yes. Yeah.
that's a control behavior. A demand for purity. The system puts forth a black and white worldview with the leader as the ultimate moral arbiter. This creates a world of guilt and shame where punishment and humiliation are expected. It also sets up an environment of spying and reporting on each other. Through submission to the powerful level of guilt, the individual loses his or her personal sense of morality. I got sent home from school one time because my shorts were an inch too high on my knee. Like, okay, I don't know what to tell you, but I literally got sent home. I'm like, oh no, I'm breaking the 11th commandment.
The shorts are too short.
Yeah, just of all the things, it was so humiliating. It happened in front of class and everything.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
it was part of the way they were thinking, and seeing these definitions helps me to look back on some of those
Yes.
stories and give them context.
Yeah.
So,
And people who are in all different denominations can have stories that are like that, but there's a different energy within Adventism because of these cultish tendencies that magnify the experiences that you speak of. The other denominations, when they have this kind of problem with, you know, you might be kicked out or given the cane or whatever, all sorts of issues, are generally based around individuals that are being inappropriate. This is a systematized inappropriate behavior that is not benign. Most other denominations are quite benign in their Christian perspective on how to control people.
Yeah, it's definitely
this magnifies it.
You know, the difference is enlightening. I went to the local Calvary Chapel, and I was talking to one of the pastors, and we ran into some other, I don't know, religious folks in town, I guess. And my son was wearing a Misfit sweatshirt, and somebody had a huge problem with that because one of the Misfits was, well, he loved Satan, so be it.
Right.
But one of the Misfits was a Catholic, and he loved Jesus, so be that. But because he had a Misfit sweatshirt, he literally got a bunch of flack from a bunch of people, and I was like, no, we're not. These weren't Adventists, to be fair, but yeah, it was really interesting, and they actually challenged my son. They challenged me, and like my belief because he was wearing that. I was like, I don't know what kind of bands you had on when you were a kid, but I'm sure your parents didn't approve.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, yeah.
So yeah, it just made me think of that. But yeah, I talked to the pastor of the local Calvary about the situation. I said, I'm not sure how to gauge this. Am I being unreasonable, or am I feeling something correct in here? Like something's not quite right. And I had to be honest because in the Adventist system, there would have been like, I mean, there's a whole bunch of rules for dress. Literally, how you dress. And if you're not sure Ellen had a nice little cutout pattern you could buy that God ordained. So you can't pick on the Mormons for their underwear. But I asked the pastor, and he's like, well, what do you think about the standard? And I was like, well, he wants to know what I think. Okay, this is new. And so this Calvary Chapel pastor, I was like, well, he said, if a girl had too short of shorts, what would you think? And I go, well, if I find myself following her around, there might be an issue, or if I'm going like this, but I'm peeking, there might be an issue, right? Like, but yeah, I just didn't have. It was good to get perspective and have a pastor like engage with me personally and said, well, kind of where's your standard there, and does that apply in a church setting? Like, is it going to offend people? Like, it wasn't like, here's a hard and fast rule and your shorts are too short, go home. It was like, will this affect people? Do you think it will cause them to stumble? How do you love this way? Like, it was refreshing is what it was. So yeah, so that's demand for purity. I know that story kind of came out of nowhere, but that's what made me think of. All right, let's keep going. So the cult of confession. First one, then many acts of surrender of total exposure are necessary. The individual is now owned by the group. The person no longer has a sense of balance between worth and humility. There's a loss of boundaries between what is secret, known only to the inner self, and what is known to the group. No one's curious, but I know there were letters written to people because they were thinking sinful thoughts, right? Or God showed me, or something. But that one's quite interesting. I would apply that to more like, your Netflix cult, and you're watching for entertainment, thinking, "Oh my gosh, these people are crazy." But you can see how these ideas transcend, though. So sacred science. This one is way fascinating. The group's doctrine. Now, this is interesting. The doctrine is seen as the ultimate truth. Questions or challenges? Yeah, I just want to let that one hang for a minute. Yeah, questions or challenges are not allowed. This reinforces personal closure and inhibits individual thought, creative self-expression, and personal development. Experience can be perceived only through the filter of the dogmatic belief system or ideological trappings. If you're an Adventist, you should read that one again. And I'm not apologizing for that one. Yeah, that one is just, that one's
Can you just
powerful.
read that one again?
Yeah, I'd be glad to.
Yes.
The group's doctrine is seen as the ultimate truth. The doctrine, just keep that in mind. Questions or challenges are not allowed. This reinforces personal closure. This inhibits individual thought, creative self-expression, and personal development. And the last part is just as good, I think. Experience can be perceived only through the filter of dogmatic belief system or ideological trappings.
And even when people who are pushing against that and trying to create some thought and ask some questions, when challenged, they still try and filter it to make it work with the 28 or work with Ellen or somehow fit in, like these guys.
The great controversy worldview.
Yes. These guys who spent their lives undermining, as scholars, giving us historical evidence about plagiarism, about Ellen's realness. Well, that was great. I appreciated it so much. But when they have tried to push and change and question, they even though they get shut down, that's bad. That's a cultish behavior to shut those kind of people down. But even these guys still, when they write, it's all filtered in a way that's still trying to, keep all the tangents of Ellen in place in some way. They can't just go, she was wrong, out, she's a false prophet. They've got to make her fit.
It always comes back to her.
Yes.
Today I was chatting with a pastor friend. He's in the admin system, and he was trying to give me thought inspiration versus verbal inspiration. He was using that as his argument. He's like, watch this video. He's like, I know you like history, so maybe you'll appreciate this. And the first half of the video is like 15 minutes of going over some history and then 40 minutes of defending Ellen. I was like, it always comes back to that every single time.
Every time.
Right. And right. The doctrine is the ultimate truth. Just,
Yes.
I mean, just keep that in mind. Okay. Loading the language. We'll keep going with the definitions. We got to get rid of the roots before we have some fun. There's a lot of roots, but I think you'll see why it's important. I think
it's important. Yeah.
So loading the language, there is a jargon internal to and understood only by the group. Haystack. Constricting language constricts the person. Capacities for thinking and feeling are significantly reduced. IJ. Imagination is no longer part of the person's actual life experience. The mind atrophies from disuse.
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
Like you begin to believe something for so long, you don't even know why you believe it.
Can I just say something to that? I've done over 400 interviews. I say this a lot. It's not bragging. It's just to validate that I've got my finger on the pulse. But I rarely watch back the interviews I've done. I just got to keep going. Next one. But in re-releasing season 2 and in setting up a separate channel, SDA highlights, I've been going through videos and just shortening some down, and I've noticed something about me in that. And I'm sure in another 100 interviews, I'll look back at this point and see it. And it's a good thing. I see change in me. I see change in, I was still using Adventist style jargon. I was still speaking in a way that wasn't truly me, even though I thought it was me. And as I said, I'll look back at this, I'm changing, I'm learning all the time. But I realized, I was thinking about this last night, that my there was an atrophy going on in my brain my whole life that had formed me and molded me down to a specific type of person. I'd become a template. I was allowed to be the worship guy, maybe the social fun music night guy. And when I spoke to people at gigs, I've been watching some footage back lately of that too. And there's something that just forces us into this Adventist. My wife used to say, "Oh, you're Adventisty," and I didn't even know what she really meant. Yeah, and I didn't know what she meant. And I was the first Adventist she ever met. She had never met Adventists until she met me, but she soon labelled it Adventisty, and I didn't know what she meant, even until just this last week, where I've looked back and I go, "Wow." In the early days of SDAQ&A, I had that Adventisty vibe still cooking, still going on. And I say that not to criticize or put myself down or anything like that, but that it does change literally your personality, the way you think, the way you connect with other people. And I'm so glad that I can notice that change.
Yeah. So is that, to use the word gems all the time, if I'm going to tease you a little bit, is that from the Ellen had a bunch of little gems? I heard that quote once. They're little gems of truth. I was wondering if that was an Adventism.
I don't know. Probably. And to be honest, even in the last few weeks, I've tried really hard in that 400 plus interviews to get these guys to proudly share their version of Adventism. Because when I talk about Adventism, they go, "That's not my Adventism." I would say, "Well, tell us what yours is." I kind of know because I was one. But even I'm now realizing, and yesterday's interview brought it home as well, this concept that I'm even thinking that this gem of Adventism isn't such a great shiny thing as well. I'm now realizing traditional Adventism and progressive Adventism, they're both, in a quagmire, in the mud. And, I'm sort of pulling back from supporting the progressive Adventists. I'm disappointed that they've had no courage in 45 years to stand up.
I admire you. You really hung in there, Peter.
I like to turn over every stone. And look, these guys, they're doing their best to try and keep something that's culturally special. But what I realized as I've been reflecting on my own changes is that how special was that culture anyway, that was just happy Sabbath, haystacks, and let's all focus on Jesus. There's a shallowness to even the good cultural Adventist, what do you call it, scenario. So I tried. Maybe today's the day. I give up now, progressive.
400 episodes in, you can stop now.
I've got one more show to do, which I want to put together. It's the Adventist manifesto of what could have been.
It's time for you to write a book.
I'm waiting for AI to just, I'll just put in the YouTube channel link and tell it
And
to
then
write
just
a book.
yeah, you can do it.
It's coming.
All right, let's get back to our definitions.
Yes,
Let me
yes.
see. Where was I? We did loading the language. Doctrine over person.
That's it.
Okay. Denial of self and any perception other than the groups is required. That's interesting. There are no
Yeah.
longer such a thing as a personal reality or a separate self from the group. The past societies and individuals are altered to fit the needs of the doctrine. The Sabbath is not made for man. Or wait a minute. Yeah. Thus, the individual is remolded. The cult personality emerges, and the person's sense of integrity is lost. Yeah. So you have to change yourself to fit the doctrine, which is curious.
Yeah.
It's not
well,
like Christ doing a work in you that changes you from the inside.
Yes.
It's not the fruit of the spirit change. It's it's me trying to fit a behavior. And I might not believe or like it or even want to do that behavior. And yeah, you tell a toddler to behave themselves and watch what happens. Yeah, they have to grow. They just do.
Yeah, we have to make our own mistakes.
Dispensing of existence. The group is the ultimate arbiter, and all non-believers are considered evil or non-people. If non-people cannot be recruited, they can be punished, even killed. This should remind you of, like, say, Islam. This creates an us versus them mentality, which is definitely all those Sunday keepers. I was so insulted when I figured out, like, these are people who Christ bled and died for, and I'm busy calling them Sunday keepers. It was an awful feeling in the pit of my stomach. Yeah. This creates an us versus them mentality and breeds fear in the individuals who see that one's own life depends on a willingness to obey. Here is found the merger of individual with the belief. Yeah, that you can see what kind of these things do. So the last one, just a little quick reminder, and you'll get a chance to see a lot of them again. The first one are qualities and characteristics. And the second one is the systems of thinking, how these thoughts begin to dictate.
Now, you've shared with me the actual slides. It might be good down the track to do a show where I interrupt less, and we can break these down into just big, so they can come up really big, and just individual ones, and just read it, flick to the next one, flick to the next one.
We'll play the game here in a minute, and we'll get to play with some of these. So I promise.
Yeah.
So we'll get to digest some of these. I know it's a lot of info right now, but we'll get to digest.
It's brilliant.
Or so. All right, so let's go on to another route. So questioning credibility. So this is also her, and I think these were interesting. Like, these are questions that I wouldn't have thought about, and I think these questions are helpful when, if you're leaving a system, a high control system. It's hard to navigate into the world. Like, one of the problems that former Adventists have is they don't know where to go. They don't feel like they fit in anywhere, and so they're actually they're prey. I hate to say it, they're prey for other systems that are high control. So they can fall right back into those really quite easily, or they'll just deny everything and become agnostic. So this is in the data. This isn't me speaking. Adventists who leave have a set of characteristics that you guys can spend time looking. But I thought these questions are helpful because, a lot of people, they still believe in Jesus. They understand what the gospel is now. They just don't know where to go or what to do. So how do you navigate? Like, which church you go into? My wife does. She's a therapist, and she had a client who came out of one high control cult system. And then the next week she's like, "Oh, I joined a new church." And then we began to look it up, and it was another cult like church.
Yes.
Like, yeah. Wow. It didn't even take long. It was like 1 week out of that.
It's like a mindset, isn't it?
Yeah. And she felt right at home in the new church. And she's like, "It's so wonderful. It does this and this and this." And then the wife had to, like, go back down the control behaviors and ask her, "Do you think you fell into something similar?" Because if it's all you know, it's what you'll go back to. So anyway, these questions are pretty helpful for that. So ask about credentials. Can they be checked with outside sources? Are their credentials only within the group? Which is interesting. Like their own publishing houses. If there are any written materials, are you able to verify authorship and publication? Is it peer reviewed? That would be awesome. Peer-reviewed papers. And I know there are. So here's the fun fact. There's a lot of Adventist scholars that submit their papers to big peer-reviewed journals, and other scholars of other denominations will read those, and the scholars are saying something different than the pews, which is worth noting. Because otherwise their papers wouldn't be published. They'd be like, this is a bunch of nonsense. We've been studying Christianity for 2,000 years. But anyway, I'm on a soapbox. But
No, it's good.
what is the reputation of the leader or the group? What are the stated goals or purpose of the group? Do they seem realistic? Are the promises made? What is tangible or testable? What accomplishments are present? Is there a track record that can be checked? That's interesting. Have there been results? Are they measurable? Are there proofs to their claims? That one's also very interesting. What about former members, devotees, and clients? Now, this one's interesting, and I think everyone, both sides of the fence, should listen. What about former members, devotees, and clients? How are people who left the group treated? What is said about them? Will the group give you names of people who left, both of those who are satisfied and those who are not? I think that one's fascinating. I constantly get accused that they're like, oh, you were hurt and that's why you left. And it's the most dismissive thing you can possibly say to a human being. And if you're in a relationship and your spouse treats you that way, it's literally abusive. Like, oh, you only feel that way because, like, no, you're literally ignoring everything I'm saying because you think I'm hurt, right? That's not safe. Are former members willing to speak about their experiences? How do they evaluate their time with the group or person? What is the process for filing complaints? Is there a feedback mechanism that is real and honored? Are complaints made public? Is there a money-back guarantee? Are your questions answered directly? Are you told time and again to listen to your heart and not your head? Yeah, there's some quotes. If you guys are into Ellen, there's some quotes where she said, man, your intellect, watch out for your intellect.
Yes.
Are you told, are you told that you are too new or too uninformed or too nosy and so on and shouldn't be asking such questions? Are you expected to take what's said on faith and criticized if you challenge or ask for more? Yeah, so
wow.
I remember being...
Read that one again.
All right. Are your questions answered directly? Are you told time and time again to listen to your heart and not your head? Are you told that you are too new, too uninformed, too nosy, and so on, and shouldn't be asking such questions? Are you prepared to take what's said on faith and criticized if you challenge that approach and ask for more?
A lot of people say, oh, well, every movement or corporation or business has in NDAs, what are it, non-disclosure agreements. And I'm like, yeah, but not a gospel-based religious movement. They should be all about asking questions and learning and fearing no repercussions for doing so. So I don't know if you've ever thought about that, sort of how they try and correlate the two together. I just got to say, just a quick comment from David, because, you know, we were just talking about the progressives who you would think are the ones leading Adventism away from being a cult. But he said yesterday in the interview I had with Frank, former Adventist, and Stephen, Adventist apologist, that it was like squeezing jello to get an answer from the SDA apologist. So the guys who are trying to defend Adventism as not being a cult, even when you get them to share their view, their gem of Adventism, their progressive Adventist take on it, it still feels like you're squeezing jello. Oh dear.
Yeah. I remember in a Sabbath school asking questions. We were studying Revelation because that's the go-to topic. That's their favorite book. And I was asking questions. I was like, what? I even remember the question. I was like, well, who are we reigning over in the 1,000 years? It says we're reigning on his throne. So who's alive? I just want to know that. What are we reigning? We're reigning over bunny rabbits. Like, that's our big job description. Like, no. I was like, I want some answers to this. Where it says we're ruled and reigned 1,000 years. I'm like, over a dead planet? That stinks. That's not
Yeah.
a good end to a story. Oh, you're the king now, and your kingdom's on fire. So you guys
Yeah.
have a good time.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And I got that from the Sabbath school leader. I still remember. He's like, yeah, well, he didn't really have an answer for that.
Yeah.
But you put those pieces together. I'm like, the world's burnt, but we're in charge. We're not doing a very good job. So anyway, but those questions just got accepted as like, well, this is what we've always taught, so this is what it always is.
That's what it always is. Yeah.
So let me see, what number? I'm getting sidetracked again. Is there number 11? Is there a leader who appears? I'm not trying to be sarcastic. Is there a leader who appears to be the ultimate authority or spokesperson? Are his or her views challenged by others? Must the leader's opinion be accepted without question?
Well, let's just quickly, because I happen to have it handy. Rather than replacing the Bible, they uplift. This is the Ellen White reaffirmed at the GC 2015. They're there to correct inaccurate interpretations of Scripture. So that just shows how important her works are, and that
Right,
goes
like we just read
directly to the heart of your last point.
Right. Is there a leader who's the ultimate authority? Yes. Here's what she thinks about the Bible.
Yeah. And if your view of what the Bible says is wrong, go to her to correct that view.
Right.
That's
It's
what
just,
they're saying.
it's a loop.
And the current president, the new one, it has. I wish I had the quote off the top of my head here, but he wants to see a revival in people bringing back the belief and notion that Ellen is the spirit of prophecy. So it's not going to be different than Ted Wilson.
They're still gonna have, like, it always comes back to her. So
yeah,
not the gospel though. Yeah, it's squeezing Jello. That's what it is. And if you ask an Adventist, I've noticed what the gospel is, they will squeeze Jello in front of you and tell you it's the truth.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I enjoyed some of your comments yesterday.
I just have a loud mouth. Don't listen to anything I have to say.
I loved it. And I could see your, like I spilt, I the thermometers, the old school ones you'd put under your tongue to see if you had a temperature or not. At the base is mercury. And I dropped one a few months ago and the mercury went on the floor. And I was like, oh no, that's notoriously difficult to clean up mercury. I remember searching YouTube on how to do it properly. You can't just mop it up. So anyway, you get a bit of cardboard and another bit of cardboard and you kind of angle it together and scoop it up. And then you have to put it in plastic. And there was a whole thing I did to make sure it didn't affect the kids. But as I was, you'd press it and it'd split into two and one would roll away somewhere else. You'd press that and catch it. And I've often thought that trying to pin down a progressive Adventist take on Adventism, where they're trying real hard to look like true Bible believers, but incorporate Ellen White, is like picking up mercury. It's like you put it here and touch it there and it splits off into other bits. And then all of a sudden behind your back, it rolls in together and becomes one blob again. And you go, oh, so you are one blob. But the Jello squeezing, mercury fostering, trying to herd sheep with a kitten.
Oil and water.
It's oil and water, chalk and cheese. Yesterday was quite landmark for me, and I loved a lot of your comments. They were really hitting home to me, where you just could not pin down. Whereas Frank, and no offense to Stephen, because Stephen and I are mates, and he, I really respect that he's trying his best to cultivate a better view of Adventism and make it more biblical. But Frank just does a 10-minute, 15-minute talk on the gospel. Bang, there it is. Clear.
Yeah, like this is a side note. You got me talking now. Someone said it's like Ray Comfort. He does witnessing on the street, right? And he gospel in 30 seconds. And he asked this question. I thought it was a good question. He says, I have a knife in my back. I'm bleeding out. I have 30 seconds to learn the gospel. Go. And yeah. And by the way, that works if any of the door knockers come to your door, like the J-Dubs or the Mormons, you can just ask them that question. Like, I'm dying. I got 30 seconds. What's the God?
Tell me.
Oh, I'm dead. You didn't save me. Yeah.
Yes. Wow. That's a
And I
good
thought
one.
that was a very insightful question. Like, I have 30 seconds. What's the gospel?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's get back, because I'll just keep going.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see.
That's good.
All right. 12. What is the attitude of the followers towards the leader? Is devotion to the leader expected at all times? Is it excessive? Are there checks and balances to hold the leader accountable? I don't think I ever learned of a story where Miss Auntie Ellen, as my buddy calls her, trying to make her more palatable to me. I don't have no idea, but where Auntie Ellen got held accountable for something. I don't think there's a single story that I know of that's like that. Or maybe I should know. That would be helpful. That would be very helpful.
But they daren't have any kind of, oh yes, there is this one thing that she got wrong, and it wasn't just her misinterpreting. God told her, and it turned out not to be the case. They've got an answer for everything, and the jello can't be pinned to the wall.
All I know is I can tell you the sins of Moses and David.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And isn't that incredible? I've been thinking about David recently. Here's a guy that wanted another man's wife so badly that he put that other man in the front to ensure him getting killed, and then took the wife for his own after he died.
Oh yeah, he had a problem.
Who God still forgave him, and he was still seen as truly loved by God, and eventually had descendants that
that's got to be the gospel.
Jesus, and that's part of the gospel message, that kind of forgiveness.
Right. That's radical gospel.
And I wonder if there was any kind of Ellen coming out, you could almost forgive anything if there was some kind of accountability and admission of fault, and a jettisoning, as Frank Merendino
calls it, name 3 of her top sins. I can go to the Calvary Chapel here and talk to someone, and within a minute they'll tell me 3 of their sins they're struggling with. I can't name a single one of that lady.
Yeah. And yet we knew there were many, but they try and defend them.
All right. So let me see. 13. Is there more?
It's been in the denomination since the start. BDC just writes, Ken writes book, brings out the changing of written errors over the years that was done to protect Ellen White's writings, and that was way back in 1860 or something, or a little bit after that, 69 or something. This has just been a part of the Adventist mix from the start, and the traditional Adventists reinforce it, and the progressive Adventists enable it.
Yeah. 14. No, wait, 13.
13.
Is more than one point of view presented? I remember, okay, this is terrible. This is a story for me. Is more than one point of view presented? Are other points of view recognized? Are other points of view seen as valid but different? Man, it blew my head exploded when I learned there were like 4 different branches of eschatology. I was like, oh my goodness, this is refreshing that there's other points of view. And some of them like made more sense than what I was raised with. And I thought, goodness, there's other Christians who have the Spirit of God in them who have come to different conclusions by reading the scripture. Maybe we should all be talking. Like, I don't know. Yeah. I wish. Yeah. I wish. I think that's more beneficial to the church. They should present Orthodox positions or Catholic positions or Presbyterian positions, because they're going to have more. Like they have a reputation for knowing the Bible, but they have a reputation for knowing their proof text. They can't steel man somebody else's position. I couldn't. I don't think I still can. I have a lot to learn still. So, 14, is the group's philosophy original? If so, how can you tell? Does the leader claim to be the only person with this particular knowledge? 15, is the group affiliated with other organizations? Which one? Is that a stated relationship or is it real? And how can you check that out? 16, do others in the same or other fields publish the leader's writings or points of view? Is the leader's work cited elsewhere? Where and in what context? So I have a big library and I have lots of books from lots of Christians, which have lots of sources. And the curious thing is I've never seen a quote from Ellen White in any of those books, which here's 16 again. Do others in the same fields publish the leader's writings or point of view? Is the leader's work cited elsewhere? That's pretty interesting because that's how the rest of academia works. That's how knowledge spreads, is when people quote content, information. And then I think that's so interesting that it's a little, I saw the picture of her books or something, and there's a dude standing next to her stack of books that's over his head.
That's right. Yeah, her grandson.
Right. And there's a
Arthur.
claim to fame about how much she wrote and how prolific she is. And I'm like, I've been reading a lot of Christian books and she's not even quoted.
No.
Like that's fascinating to think about.
That is very interesting. Yeah.
Unless you go to an Adventist bookstore.
I hadn't thought about that. And yet they love saying that she's the most translated woman,
right?
In languages the world.
I should have accidentally run into her, and I ran into her in the Whitney Cross book that we showed over, the Burnt Over District, which he's a historian, so he mentioned all the characters. But
yeah,
I think that was the first time. Yeah,
that's a really interesting point. I haven't really thought about that before. If she was, what's your famous institute or something where people of great acclaim get their names written? Like Martin Luther King's there, and so blah 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 blah. Apparently, she's in there. They somehow managed to get her into what's it called? I can't remember. But everyone else that's in there has been quoted and mentioned and talked about in every other field of kind of academia, not her.
I know. I've read tons of Martin Luther quotes, tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of Luther quotes.
Yeah. This book by Ron Numbers, apparently, and when was that? When did the 84 was it, or when did it come out? First printing. It's here somewhere, but anyway. 1976. 76. Wow. When that came out, it did, for the first time, get recognized within the broader community. But it didn't start a cascade of commentary on Ellen White. That's such a good point. I'm glad you've raised that. I hadn't thought about that before. I love learning new stuff.
Yeah, it's dangerous.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, 17. Have there been, this is interesting, speaking of that incident you mentioned earlier, have there been any media reports about the leader or the group? Have you read them? Are they positive or negative? What is the group's comment about them? Yeah, you just mentioned the one at the beginning of this broadcast. You guys can look that up, by the way. What was the incident again?
The Israel Daemon.
Yeah, you can bring up the newspaper clippings and read them.
Amazing,
which is fascinating.
mind-blowing. Yeah, the whole trial is there.
What kind of 18? What kind of commitment is expected in time and money or lifestyle changes?
Yeah. Hey, just a quick throw in here, Herb Addict, and thanks for your comments, Herb Addict. I'd love you on the show one day. I think I've invited you before. Or almost an hour into the interview, and Ellen has been the focus. As I said, our opponents focus more on her than the Bible. The whole reason is that we are focusing on her is because she is the cult leader. She is the source of all this. Her claims that God told her things. So we'll get more back into detail, but as David writes,
we'll get to that's a fair critique, and that's fine. But a couple more slides, we'll get. I have a question for the group, and I had to think about it too, because I had to separate how much of what I believe was colored by what she said and not necessarily what was in the Bible, right?
Yeah.
And I can say this now on the other side, looking back, I can bring up other Christian authors and watch other videos, and they're not being colored by that framework, right?
Yeah.
So that's interesting that the White Lie was a bestseller. Well, that's good. Well, she was quoted. I'm wrong. That's good to know.
Yes, but there's a difference between random quotes. Like Martin Luther gets quoted, doesn't get quoted, then gets quoted a bit more. Gradually, it builds and builds, and then it's everywhere. Ellen White, has been quoted in books like this. Has been quoted in books like this. The conversation has begun and then petered out. Like Frank said yesterday.
It's an internal conversation.
Yeah. And Frank said yesterday, the progressives do push, but they never break through.
Yeah, the reason for the critique of her is because it's an internal conversation. Like, I'm on the other side of that looking back. So, but we'll get to what the Bible talks about as well, because this is important. But we're describing where cult characteristics look like. So, and if what these definitions are reminding you of Ellen critiques, or even if I'm bringing up Ellen critiques, the fact remains I didn't make these definitions.
Yeah.
So you still need to deal with the definition, whether you like the definition or not. And if it fits, that's also something worth thinking about maybe. All right. 19. Does it appear that there are any secrets? Is information restricted anyway? Did somebody have to hack the website to get... See? All right. Now here's the Ellen critique, and I'll give it to you. But I'll just read this. Does it appear that there are any secrets? Is information restricted in any way? So the comment you brought up, did somebody have to hack the White estate for us to get more information? Is that a fair question for the guy that brought up that comment? I'll bite back. I don't have a problem. I'm a good little verbal fighter. But I mean, look at the definition, realize it's not me, and somebody had to hack the White estate. And the reason that we had to hack it is because, well, I'll read it again. Does it appear that our secrets? Is information restricted in any way? Is there some information that you were told must not be shared with outsiders? Is there information that you're told you can't get until you're a member of the group or reach a certain level? So, my critique might be fair on that. So, what are the espoused attitudes towards relationships? Okay, this one's interesting. What are the espoused attitudes towards relationships, sex, money, education, marriage, employment, non-members of the outside world? What are the attitudes towards relationships, sex, money, education, marriage, employment, non-members, and the outside world? Okay, I have a little funny gem. Like, you're wearing off on me, Peter. I didn't know that graham crackers were created to curb masturbation. So I'm not being crass. I didn't know that. When I'm eating s'mores, I don't like to think about this.
No, that's why cornflakes was first invented.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, you have to deal with that little fact. I know it's an anecdote, but it came out of that 1850s era in that little territory. And it was the espoused attitudes towards relationship, sex, money, education, marriage, employment. We made graham crackers as an attitude towards sex. Just like that.
Incredible. Yeah. To take people away from having meat at breakfast, because meat was stirring up the sensual animal passions. Yes.
Yeah, that's why Israel. Yeah, that's why Israel failed, because they had all these sacrifices and the priests were eating meat all the time. And there
was a TV. There was a TV commercial over here years ago. So Kellogg's, Kellogg, the Adventist, Harvey, or their brother, one of the two, or both together, with the help of Ellen White. Anyway, maybe 20 years ago, I don't know, in Australia, advertising the Kellogg's cornflakes, the leg of the K, or the arm of the K, they had a really sensual looking lady with a red dress, and her body
Oh, that's
morphed
ironic.
into her body morphed into the K leg and then became the K of the leg. And I thought Kellogg would have rolled in his grave that they're
Yeah,
using,
that's hilarious.
that to advertise his product that was introduced to stop that kind
To
of
curb
behavior,
that kind of behavior. Yeah,
to curb that
exactly.
enthusiasm.
Oh, goodness. All right. Does what you have observed match what they say? And what are you expected to give up?
Yeah. What are you expected to give up? And often
So
you
I
give up
remember,
your very personality and you don't even realize you've given it up. You become a drone, very pleasant, nice,
so they
friendly.
recruit. They recruit through like Revelation seminars, right? And I watched this happen, and I wish I would have said something to the lady, but I didn't. She was I don't know, I guess a baby Christian, or she was explored, and she came to the Revelation seminar, and they presented the whole thing. And this is when I was still in the church. And anyway, so this lady was asking questions after the presentation, and she says, "Well, what about tattoos? Are tattoos sinful?" Like she was just grasping for, like, I don't know, brass tack stuff. And the presentator took her back to Leviticus when the high priest was not allowed to tattoo for the dead. And like you could just see the look on her face, like sank, like she thought she did something wrong, or she had a sin. I was just like, oh no. And I opened the Bible and showed that verse to my wife. I was like, this is about a high priest. She's not a high priest. She's not from the tribe of Judah. She's not, excuse me, she's not from the Levite tribe. She's not a high priest. She's not from, right? Yeah, but she was told in this Revelation seminar that tattoos are, sinful because of Leviticus. And I was like, out of context. That poor lady, I don't know what that poor lady walked away with. I don't even want to start with under the law, but you're not a high priest. You're not a Levite. You're not even a man, so you can't keep that Torah rule.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it was, and they just dumped that burden on this poor lady right at the beginning. I never forgot that. I don't know why it stuck in my head, but like that, like that's kind of the thought reform manipulation we talked about in the last slide.
Yeah.
All right, so a little quick recap. The first one, we talked about qualities and characteristics, things that kind of identify what these behaviors look like in a cult system, the way they control how you think about ideas in the system, and then questions you should be asking either in the system or outside of the system when you're thinking about joining something. And I think a lot of these should be hitting home. I think if any of the Adventists in the chat are paying attention, or formers, my brain went to a lot of places, which is why I shared them, but I hope your brain did too. Just, All right, so let's go up the tree a little bit. So this is Rick Ross. He's really cool. I wonder if, oh yeah, it is a touch screen. Look at that. All right, so Rick Ross, he's another expert. He does cult interventions, actually. And you can go on his website. He is awesome. I love listening to the guy. You should try to get him on your show, Peter. I bet he would come.
Yeah, so an Adventist guy, is he, or a former Adventist?
No, I don't. I actually don't know his background.
Does he and the other lady, have they had any experience with Adventism that you know of in your chats with them?
I was just going to tell you about Rick Ross. Right. So Rick Ross actually has a story. He's been doing cult interventions for a long, long time. He actually sits down with the family and he'll have an intervention, like an alcohol intervention, but for a cult. And he's mentioned his stories. I listened to several of the stories when I was learning all this stuff. He was one of the guys that influenced how I was beginning to separate these ideas. And he mentioned an Adventist kid who got involved, and the family got worried about the behavior because the behaviors were strange to them, I guess. And they contacted him, and they straight sat this dude down, and he mentions it by name, and I was like, okay, that's pretty interesting. So this guy's very charismatic. He's done the book tours. He's on the New York Times bestseller list. He's all over the place.
Hey, I'm going to let you just keep going for a second while I'm just going to go to the next room. I've got to set up something for my daughter's homeschooling Montessori thing, but I will be listening. And you'll have less interruptions from me, but I'll be listening.
Oh, it's okay.
And,
It's good to have some feedback.
And you can see the chat there, can't you? If there's anything you notice that you want to draw upon, if not, just ignore it anyway. We're gonna be coming soon, everybody, to a time where we want a bit of a quiz for you guys.
Yeah, well, everybody will get to weigh in on this, and I'm looking forward to that. And Peter will be our moderator for your thoughts and comments. That's why I was trying to, encourage you to keep those on the back of your mind for some of these definitions. And I think this will be insightful once we play the game.
Yes. So you carry on. I'm just in that room right there, and I'm listening.
All right. So this is Rick Ross. Like I said, he does cult interventions. He deals with people that get sucked into systems. They're not necessarily religious cults. Sometimes they're like Nexium was a good example that he dealt with people out of there. He's had a lot of experience doing the same types of stuff, but he's really good at demonstrating the patterns. So if you want to listen to him, you probably hear patterns from your past, would be my guess. But I'll just go over some of his warning signs and stuff. So these are interesting. I think they're worth listening to. So technology, however, I'm having issues with. All right. I don't use Apple. I have a PC. So there we go. I'm just going to have to deal with it. All right. Number 1, 10 warning signs of potentially unsafe group leader. Absolutely authoritarianism without meaningful accountability. I mean, you can meet pastors in and out of any system like this where like they become like a celebrity, but they don't have to answer to anybody. You've probably seen a lot of these people on the news, actually, because they usually get caught in some kind of scandal. Number 2, no tolerance for questions or a critical inquiry. Right. And yeah, that one kind of speaks for itself, I think. No meaningful financial disclosure regarding budget, expenses, or independently audited audited financial statements. All right. So yeah, I don't know where to find the info, but if you can't find it, it's worth paying attention to. Unreasonable fear about the outside world. My mom, I'll pick on her. She was afraid that one day the government was coming to get her and kill her because she was a Sabbath keeper. So that one, yeah, it didn't make for a good home life. Unreasonable fear about the outside world, such as impending catastrophe, evil conspiracies, or persecutions. If you're an old Adventist and you've read Great Controversy, that one should echo a little bit for you. Number 5, there's no legitimate reason to leave. Former followers are always wrong in leaving, negative or even evil. I believe there was a quote that you guys might know that like the people who leave have a hard time like even being saved or something like that. Like, and if you join a group and they tell you we're the only group and there's no salvation outside of this group, buyer beware. Just buyer beware. Number 6, former members often relate the same stories of abuse and reflect a similar pattern of grievances. So this one I think is really, really important for the formers and for current members. If you hear former members often relate the same kind of stories of abuse, and even if you don't think there's abuse, and reflect a similar pattern of grievances. So if formers are having the same type of grievances repeatedly, that's a sign of a potentially unsafe group. So, and I know there's a lot of former Adventists, and it was actually, this community has been great for me because I've been able to hear my story and other people's story. And it's the same type of pattern it's the same pattern. It's weird, but when you see it, it's really helpful, especially to kind of give you an idea of what you're in. Number 7, there are records, books, news articles, or television programs that documented the abuses of the group leader. So I can't answer that one, but I bet Peter would have a lot to say about that one. Like the book he keeps showing us. He's going to get a cut of the profits, I think, if he sells it enough. Let me see. Number 8, this should be interesting. And for those of you who are honest, you can put a little thumbs up in the chat or something. But number 8, followers feel they can never be good enough. That's specifically related to the system, but goodness gracious, like if you're thinking about the IJ, there it is. There it is. Followers feel they can never be good enough. Number 9, the group leader is always right. I'll just let that one lie. Number 10, the group leader is the exclusive means of knowing the truth or receiving validation. Peter just showed us that little quote about her role or whatever. The group leader is the exclusive means of knowing the truth or receiving validation, and no other process of discovery is really acceptable or credible. So that's curious. I hope you guys are just hearing these from your past. I hope ideas are coming to the forefront, because I know when I read these, I was like, oh yeah. All right, we'll go on to the next part. So 10 warning signs. And like I said, this is the boring part. We'll get to the fun game in a minute. 10 warning signs regarding people involved in or with a potentially unsafe group or leader. Number 1, extreme obsessiveness regarding the group leader, resulting in exclusion of almost every practical consideration. Number 2, individual identity, the group, the leader, and/or God as distinct and separate categories of existence become increasingly blurred. Instead, in the follower's mind, these identities become substantially and increasingly fused as that person's involvement with the group leader continues to deepen. So yeah, I know I have friends that are still in the church, and we have these conversations a lot, but I often have the hunch that like my buddy is so far into it, like once you bought into something so far in, it's really hard to get out. There was a great example of was the guy with all the billboards, and he had the end of the world is happening in July, and after nothing happened, the press showed up and they wanted answers, because all these people were selling their homes, which should be familiar. They quit their jobs, all kinds of terrible things, Herald camping. And so when they went, the press went to talk to him, and he wouldn't answer any questions because obviously they were still there, and his date of the second coming didn't happen. But they had film of the day after, and his little church was full of all the people that were duped, that gave up their jobs, that sold their houses and gave up their belongings. And they all sat there, and there was literal silence in the gym. They have it on film. And these people were so far in that they just couldn't walk away. They had like one interview where one lady's like, yeah, I don't realize what I did for my family. Or she was expressing regret. She's like, I don't believe I did this to my family. So she left, but they were sitting in that gymnasium waiting for an answer after they went through all this terribleness. So, all right, let me keep going. Whenever the group leader is criticized or questioned, it is characterized as persecution. So that should remind you of some quotes. Maybe I bet it does for Peter. Number 4, I can't say that word, but for those of you guys who are gracious, uncharacteristically, I got it. Stilted and seemingly programmed conversations and mannerisms, cloning the group leader and personal behavior. That one's weird. I don't know if that happened. Like I said, I don't have a lot of historical context for all of these. Number 5, dependency on the group leader for problem-solving solutions and definitions without meaningful reflective thought. This one's, I think, important. The seeming inability to think independently or analyze situations without the group leader's involvement. Right? So Peter just shared that quote. If you have a question on the Bible, go to her. She'll help you figure it out. Number 5, we just did 5. 6, hyperactivity centered on the group leader's agenda, which seems to supersede any personal goals or individual interests. So I think we just watched the general conference on this channel, and yeah, those were very public goals and for the group. So it's curious. Number 9, anything the group leader does can be justified no matter how harsh or harmful. Now, I'm not going to pick on the Adventists, but I will pick on David Koresh. David Koresh justified all his behavior. And for those of you guys know the history, he came out of the Adventist church. And a little anecdote, his favorite literature was Ellen. So you can do what you want with that info. Number 10, former followers are at best considered negative. That's me. This is me. 10, former followers are at best considered negative, or worse, evil and under bad influences. They cannot be trusted and personal contact is avoided. When we left the church up here, we had one person who sent us a greeting card, and we had one family that we're still friends with to this day. But yeah, we literally lost our entire community. We stopped getting invited places. Our kids were friends with their kids. Like it was weird. Like it was a weird thing. So I'm going to read that one again. Number 10, former followers are often best considered negative. And I keep seeing the comments over here. Oh, you've been hurt. That's why you left, right? So there it is. Or worse, evil and under bad influences, right? I got told that 1,000 times. You wouldn't have left if. They cannot be trusted and personal contact is avoided. So that's a common thing that you'll hear, a common grievance from formers. So I'll leave that there. All right. So silly apple. Yeah. Ray Daughtery, I saw that one. That was scary. That's a good example, I think, of where these ideas go. I mean, it's not for everyone. I get it, but I'm not trying to group everybody together. I just really want people to understand what these definitions look like. All right, let's go up the tree. All right, so this is for the group chat. This is and I need Peter to come back. I think he'll get a good Peter. If you're there, you'll want to see some of these because I bet you'll think they're funny. And he's already seen it, but if the group's here, so does any of what we just talked about sound familiar? Because I bet it does. And I would even ask Adventists that are in the chat, like, be honest, if you've heard some of these things and you've thought about them, how come? Right? Does any of these things fit the criteria we just explored? Right? So, and that's kind of the game we'll do tonight, and we'll get the chat involved in this here in a minute. But I got some memes which I thought was great. Adventist parents, why are you always so scared? Younger me, unconfessed sins. I just listened to the former Adventist podcast the other day, and I forget her name, but the lady was saying, yeah, I used to go to bed at night and think, oh my goodness, which sin did I not confess? Which sin did I not confess? And like, she was afraid of dying with unconfessed sin. Like, that's terrible for a child to be dealing with. Like, that's not the gospel. Investigative judgment, mark of the beast, time of trouble. I mean, I can honestly say, like, that time of trouble dictates a lot of behavior, like move to the woods, buy yourself a house. Only facts. Yeah, these are the nice thing about meme cultures. They kind of hit things really close to the head. Yeah, you're right. Time of trouble, everything is evil. Oh, good. I'm going to keep using SpongeBob because there we go. Yeah, Colleen Tinker, that was the lady. Yeah. And she said she would go to bed worried about some sin she might have forgot. And she thought, oh my goodness, if I die in my sleep, I'm going to go to hell. Or not hell, but soul sleep or whatever they do. Running to the hills, Catholic torture chambers. I forgot about that one. I forgot about the Catholic torture chambers until I saw the meme. But I remember hearing that as a kid, like, wow. Yeah. The recording angel, that's terrifying because I'm sure my recording angel quit a long time ago. Like, he's like, the book's not big enough. I'm not doing this anymore. This guy does nothing but sin. He needs the gospel. Sunday law. Yeah, we wanted to get some memes up in here because we thought you might appreciate these. Someone in the chat there, Peter, said, those aren't memes. Those are just facts. Which I thought was kind of funny.
That's great.
Sinless perfectionism. Yeah, good luck with that. All right, so other meme. There you go, down in the right-hand corner. Perfect law keeping. They got like the Greek pushing the boulder up the hill that you.
Yeah, mentioned it yesterday. I didn't realize you were having it in the show today, though. It's great.
Yeah, I think that one's brilliant because in the Greek story, he never gets to the top of the hill.
Yeah.
Right? I think that meme's so it's so on point. And so teriology, for those Bible scholars, it's just the method of salvation or how salvation works or something like that. I'm not the expert, but yeah. And I know this to be true too. Like, you got to keep the law perfectly to be saved. So yeah. And it's just ironic because that meme is the Greek story where you never get the boulder up the hill. So good luck with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Right. And I talked about this one yesterday about the Philip going to the Ethiopian, and he says, "What must I do to be saved?" And he's like, "There's water right there. Can you dunk me? I'm ready."
Yeah.
And you know what wasn't said? Near the end, there's going to be well, you can read the meme. Sir, what must I do to be saved? Well, believe in Jesus and make sure you keep Saturday as Sabbath, or you'll lose your salvation if you don't keep Saturday.
Yeah.
The guy being,
Uh,
I know. Yeah. All right. So let me see. What's the top one? The Star Wars fans right there. Jesus is currently investigating believers' sins, the Christian, but you do believe he pardoned the sins, right? Like they're all pardoned, is what the gospel says. All of them, past, present, and future. Now they're done away with. He doesn't come back to deal with sin. He comes back to save us, is what the scripture says. You do believe he pardoned the believer's sins, right? You're like, yeah, that's why SpongeBob is there. So I was asking the audience, Peter, this is where we want to get some audience participation,
Yep.
and you can help
Yep.
moderate the quotes. But I said, does any of the definitions we went over sound familiar? And does any of
Yeah.
it fit the criteria of what we explored? So I'll ask the audience to start thinking about that.
Yep.
And if you had enough of your memes, we're going to go to the next one. All right. So this is where we're going to propose a game. So, and for the guy who critiqued me earlier, definitely weigh in because this is probably helpful. I said, anywhere, this is just my thoughts now, anywhere Ellen touches the scripture is where I believe you will find the cult comparisons. I said, you can't dismiss the fact that her influence shaped the church and still does to this day. I said, this is not a blanket statement about what all the members believe, not at all. But I'd wager that some of your views of scripture is influenced directly by her input. So that's just me. This is just me. So take it or leave it. But in light of that idea, I say we play a game, and I'll need the help from the audience. So live viewers can pick a category from the previous cult definitions, which is why hopefully you guys are writing some of it down. But I have some on the screen so you guys can pick from as well. So live viewers can pick a category from the previous cult definitions and or warnings. And then we're going to play Pin the Tail on the Donkey. So post in the comments a quote or an idea you remember either from the lady, from Auntie Ellen, or from Adventism, right? It doesn't have to be. But I think you'll find how these work. So I'll give you an example of what we'll do in the game. All right, so here's a few examples. So I pulled these examples from the list, from the roots that we went over. So these are quotes that I remember, or things that I thought. And yes, I use the quotes from her because that was the behavior that was expected in the church. So that's why I picked them. But these are just my examples. The group displays an excessive, zealous, or unquestioning commitment to its leader, whether alive or dead. You should remember this one. Yeah, the text is small. I can make it a little bigger. Oh, how's that?
Yeah, that's good. That's great. And you might just need to slide it across as you read it.
Yeah, I don't like apples. I like PCs. All right. Okay, I can do this. Is that better? Can you guys read it?
Yeah, that's
right.
good.
All right. So the group displays unquestioning commitment to its leader, whether alive or dead. So this is the example that I thought of. So there's a quote. When they came to the point in the study where they said, "We can do nothing more, the Spirit of the Lord would come upon me and I would be taken off in vision, and a clear explanation of the passage we had been studying would be given me with instructions on how we were labored and teach effectively." So, and So when I thought of that first definition, the group displays excessive, zealous, unquestioning commitment to this leader, I thought of that quote. That's something that came to my mind. Right? What do? We're stuck on this passage. You go to the oracle, don't you? That's how it works. All right. Let me see. All right. The leader dictates, sometimes in great detail, how members should think and act. All right. So these are things that I remember as a kid. They should be quiet from all play and running about, talking about children. Yeah. I even heard households that say you had to be quiet on Sabbath. You weren't allowed to be loud. Like, that's dictating behavior. Yeah. How members should, there it is right there in the quote. Do not allow them to violate God's holy day, allowing them to play in the house or out of doors. Children, you can tell children not to play. Good luck with that. All right. Let not the precious hours of the Sabbath be wasted in bed. You better not be taking a nap on Sabbath because you're breaking the rules.
I love how, there's various quotes from Ellen White telling you how to keep the Sabbath. And yet, if she really tried to keep the Sabbath as was truly asked by the Jewish law,
right? You can't leave your tent. You ain't going anywhere out of your bed. Yeah. You can only sit on your bed.
And I think Ellen would have a lot to say about social media and using your devices on Sabbath.
Oh, that poor lady. That poor lady.
But Saturday afternoon is the big time.
Right. So, and I pick these quotes, to be fair, I pick these quotes not just because I'm picking on her. I pick these quotes because these are things I got told that were things that I had to do, and I didn't know where they came from.
Yeah.
I was like, that's not in the Bible, right? So, right, like not swimming, right? Or maybe you can only put your ankles in, or like, who knows? These arbitrary rules. So these quotes, while you can criticize that I'm using Ellen quotes, were things I literally got told on child behavior. So you gotta weigh that as it is. I'm using the quote because that was demonstrated. I didn't even know these quotes. I had to go do my homework. I'm like, where did I get this idea from?
Right. So you remembered you'd been told this sort of stuff, and you just were double checking that it wasn't just anecdotal, that she did actually
I had
say
no
it.
idea.
You say you found the source material.
So these quotes I dug up because these were things that I was taught, and I didn't know where they came from. And that needs to be said to the Adventist. Okay. No boisterous noise or confusion. Come to the table without levity.
Don't laugh. The table without levity.
Like, come on. Boisterous noise and contention should not be allowed any day of the week. Any day of the week, you better not laugh. But on the Sabbath, all observe. Let me see. I can't even make this up. But on the Sabbath, all should observe quietness. All right, so there it is. Don't watch comedies or comedians because boisterous noise and contention should not be allowed on any day of the week. That sounds like law, and it's not biblical.
It's interesting when progressives hear this, they go, well, she was wrong. That's okay. She's not seeing it from God in this instance. She was just got it wrong. But what they're failing to admit is that these ideas influence the Adventist church then and now, like, putting sauce on spaghetti. It does not, you can't take it away once it's been put there. It marinates in the spaghetti, and the spaghetti has a flavor because it's her. If it was you and I saying this stuff and it had a small amount of influence and then people would say it's silly, that's fine. But this woman had, like, this is the spirit of prophecy. If she's saying something came from God or even just an idea, it has a way heavier weight than just the average Joe Blow.
And even if we set that aside, because I'm trying to be fair to the guy that criticized me, I was taught this stuff without knowing where it came from. Like, these quotes might seem crazy, right? And even if they're not crazy to you, whatever, but I was taught them as behaviors for children in the church.
Yes.
Like, just keep that in mind. And I didn't know where they came from. So like I said, I keep saying this because I want you to understand why I'm using these quotes. They're not just picked on quotes.
Yeah.
All right. So there are amusements such as dancing, card playing, chess, checkers, which we cannot approve because heaven condemns them. Okay, so that's in First Condemnations, chapter 1. Right. So, but see, and my point again, I was taught these things in the church. I was never told where the quote came from. And I gotta stress this. All right. So, like I said, these are just my examples, and you guys will get a chance to do it in a minute. The group is elitist, claiming a special status, exalted status. You guys can read the definition yourself. So these are the ones I was taught, and I had to go dig up the quotes. So people who leave, right? They're in truth. Okay, this is a quote from her, but those Sunday keepers, they just don't know. And I treated Sunday keepers bad. I did. I was arrogant towards them. In truth, they are worse than the heathen. But this we are not to tell them. This is a quote from her. The clergy considers themselves as teachers, highly religious, and their churches sent out missionaries to the work of converting the savages. But to have the implication that a similar work must be done for them, they would consider the worst kind of insult. Yeah, I was told we have to go recruit the Sunday people.
Yeah, yeah.
But they're worse than savages. To be fair, I don't think I knew that part. They kind of left that part out of the quote.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how about this one? Anybody ever hear this? Seventh-day Adventists have been chosen by God as a peculiar people, separate from the world, the greatest wealth of truth ever entrusted to mortals. We have the secret sauce, the most solemn and fearful warnings ever sent by God to man have been committed to them and given to the world. I didn't know that was the quote, but I was told that and taught that. I've been chosen by God, the peculiar people.
Yeah, I remember that actual word being mentioned.
Right. So the definition, the cult definition, right? The warning, the group is elitist, claiming special exalted status for itself.
Yeah.
Like you guys can wrestle with that one all you want. So there's a definition, not my definition. And you can't see it on the screen. There we go. There's the definition and there's the quote.
Hey, just a quick thing, the screen. Do you know how you sent me the link to the PowerPoint? Can I pass that into the chat?
Yeah, it's public. Yeah. I have it set to public. Anybody can access this.
So just everybody, I'm going to just get the link now. And I think you emailed it to me. So I'll just try and find that while you're talking there. And that way, guys, you can look. Yeah, I do have it. So I'll send
it to public. Anyone can use it. Anyone can.
And that Prezi file is like a Dropbox, is it? It's like a.
It's just public access. You can post on Prezi is like a fancy PowerPoint, and you can post your presentations to public or.
Right.
Yeah.
Good. Well, I'll just put that in chat, and people can access it, and. So yeah, sorry to interrupt with that, but I just thought
right. I was being interrupted by this thing right here. This is one of my Aussies, and he's adorable. You guys need to see him. There you go.
I can't see. Hang on.
Yeah. There you
go. Yeah. What a
he's
look
gorgeous.
At his face. Look at it. Hold his face up higher.
Okay. He wants down now. I know he wants up. Yeah, he's gorgeous. He's a pain, but that's what was bothering me right down there.
Right.
I love the Aussies. They talk back.
They do, yeah.
Yeah. Not the people, the dogs. You're not too bad yourself, Peter. All right, let's get back to.
I'm just trying to share that in chat now. If people are interested, I think it will come up. If someone can click it for me.
Oh, there it is. Nice.
See, I think Dexter may have been asking, or Mark. If you're asking, it is in chat there now, and Facebook, I'm putting it in your chat as well. And that way you can go back, or you can even open it up now and follow along as well. I should have done that at the start.
Yeah, that's a good idea. All right, let me see. I'll just read a couple more, and then we can all play. We'll maybe like take 5 and then play the game together or something.
Yeah.
Something like that. All right. Let me finish this off so I can give an idea of how people can engage with this.
I can turn that off. And fantastic presentation. Really love it. Okay. So Jane says it works. That's great. So I'll just go back a little bit and read some comments. Some will be pertaining to this.
Well, Peter, I got a couple more slides that they can engage with as we bring up comments.
Yeah.
So what I did on the next page of the slide, there we go. So I'll let you guys, now I'll let the audience weigh in, and I would just ask you guys to kind of be honest about things that you experienced or thought. And then maybe Peter, you can curate and kind of bring out ones that are relevant. So what I did is I just put a bunch of those definitions on the next 3 slides, ones that that I thought a lot about. And if anybody in the audience can, just go down them, and if you see anything that rings a bell on any of these definitions, remember these are definitions by called experts, not me.
Yes.
So, but if you found something in your past, especially in any kind of high control system, that you can recognize these things, I would ask you guys to pin the tail on the donkey.
Yes, pin the tail on the donkey.
Yeah,
love it. Okay.
Right. There. Jane has one right there. Falling into the water. No swimming on Sabbath. John Claude Guillermo. On Sabbath, going to the beach with SD groups to walk. No swimming, but it was okay to tip your toes. Yeah, that's definitely in the Torah. I read that somewhere.
And Schley writes, the BC SDA camp meeting put in a playground which was fully open on both Sabbaths of camp with shrieking children. Ellen would fume.
Right, because we just read that kids were supposed to be quiet. Yeah. There you go. Is that a little bigger? Can people read that now? I'm trying to pay attention.
Yeah, I'll just do one. Go back up again. Do there. Yeah, that's maybe one more low, one size bigger.
Let me see. I'm kind of doing it by hand because I don't have my PC. I'm cutting it off.
There we go. That's good. No, that's good. Oh yeah, that was a bit too much.
Sorry. I don't have any control. Uh-oh. Look at that. I'm messing it all up. Having PTSD, I can't even function. There?
That'll do. Yeah, there we go.
All right.
That's close enough.
You guys can also zoom in on your screens, by the way, with your plus button on your keyboards.
Oh, didn't know
you're watching
that.
On YouTube, yeah. You can make it a little bigger.
Oh, yes, you can. And if you're on a phone, you can just do it with fingers there.
Is that a true story, Barry Ford, or is that a joke? Because that's terrible if it's true, and it's funny if it's a joke.
I'll come to that one in a second, so I don't lose where I'm up to. Emma writes, we had a pool and we could go in on a very hot day and sit there but not have fun or swim around.
Yeah, so mean. Don't have fun. Gosh, like, man, you read the scriptures and like there's all these, be joyful, sing music, dance naked. Sorry, that's David. Like there's all these things that we're told to like make noise and rejoice, and you're told to clap hands and just all that joy.
Just not what's ironic is that Ellen with that Israel Damon trial was fully joyful getting into it as David would have, and then it went from that to the other end. Andy Mack writes, so many things I thought were biblical, but no, they were Ellenisms.
Right. That's my big point in this presentation. Yeah. Exactly. They're very well put.
Dexter adds, what about Boggle and Scrabble? Asking for a friend. We had Egypt to Canaan. Did you guys in the States have that book, Egypt to Canaan? It was like a snakes and ladders kind of game.
Yeah.
I'm just bringing some up just to keep it happening. There are members here that are so secluded within Adventism and never like others outside to come into their sphere or realm unless a pastor or elders is there. I found that like a cult.
Right. I can't remember any other people coming into the church from different faith systems from,
No.
even if it was just Christianity, right? That's fine. But I don't remember anybody ever coming and presenting like, oh, we're Presbyterians and this is kind of how we view things. Or I don't remember.
No, they definitely didn't like that.
Right.
Ray Doherty writes, I definitely heard the peculiar people and wealth of truth bit. Schley wrote, yes, this quote was European Protestant pastors. First to go try to give them the truth was the anti-Trinitarian, semi-Arian Jane Andrews bringing full-on heresy. Jude writes, they teach homeschool and don't want non-SDA kids intermingling with them. Yeah. I will say something about that in my thought. When I was at Avondale High School, so I live in Cooranbong, and a hamlet of Cooranbong is Avondale, where Avondale College, now university, is, and where Ellen White lived, literally 300 meters from where I'm sitting right now. Avondale, I went to Avondale Sabbath School, church, primary school, high school, college, taught at Avondale School. But when I was in high school at age maybe 15, for some reason the school opened it up to the general public. So here were all these sheep having had all Adventist upbringing, totally unprepared for what was to occur next. And our year 10 classroom, there were two year 10, that's what we call, I don't know, age filled at 15, whatever. All of a sudden, an inpouring of people, students from the community, public, secular kids, all drinking on Friday nights and Saturday nights, all smoking pot and listening to rock music. And we little naive sheep suddenly had, of a class of 30, all of a sudden half of that class was from the secular community. So we went from no collaboration or connection with the secular world to
all of them.
And by the time we'd finished high school, 90% of the Adventists at that school were smoking pot, drinking.
Yeah, look what you did there, Peter.
Went crazy. And so because they hadn't just eased into knowing what the community was, they were, the teachers, the administration were naive, and they fed us to the wolves. Not saying that these secular people were wolves. I'm still good friends with a lot of them.
Because if you don't know the world you live in, you get my first time out of the house away from any kind of adult supervision. I went to Walla Walla College for my very first year, and they had really good pot. Yeah, like
Walla Walla.
Right. But my point is, in saying that, is like, because I had no previous exposure, once I was exposed to things in the world, I had no chance. I had no fighting chance. Like, I dove in, and it was much more fun to do that than go to class. Right. Exactly. So if there's got to be wisdom when you guide your kids through the world. Like, you're in it, not of it. But you're in it is, I think, what it said. You're in it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
let's read the Barry Ford one and see. Is this the one you were mentioning? I remember reading a story by a Presbyterian where the minister had to ski to church. When the minister arrived at the church, he was confronted by the elders concerned, and they informed him there was not a problem with his skiing, but a problem if he enjoyed it.
Are you serious?
That would be, Barry is telling a true story there.
Wow, that's amazing.
He read that story, yeah.
So you can see how these come. They influence lots of, like, these kind of ideas you can see in a lot of high control groups.
And Jane said she was the only kid who went to state school. I'm so glad my parents were rebels. Did you see any others there?
Does anybody see any on the list that they remember? If not, we'll go to the next slide. I think we had some good ones there.
Some good ones there. John wrote, on Sabbath, going to the beach with SDA groups to walk there. No swimming, but it was okay to tip your toes in. John, we were allowed to go up to our ankles. Oh, this is a classic. Accidentally falling into the water. Oops. Oh,
Right. It's so strange. Like we make the jokes about the things that we now kind of realize aren't
at the
quite
time, they
right.
were scary.
Yeah. That's interesting. Did anybody deal with like the us versus them mentality? Anybody remembers of that? Does anybody remember like you have to bring in new members like as being part of your religious indoctrination? Like this is something you have to do. Not Jesus telling people the gospel. That's from God himself. Go tell people what I did. Like
Yeah.
but new members. Yeah. I remember doing that one. Trying to bring it was a weird dichotomy. I remember like wanting to bring people to church, but I also remember I don't want to bring people to church because they won't hear about Jesus. And I remember thinking that
Interesting.
like over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Like I was embarrassed to bring them because I didn't think they'd hear about Jesus. And I remember pointing out to my wife one time, I was like, I think we've been through this entire service and I only heard Jesus in the closing prayer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And that was when I think I was on my way out, just realizing something wasn't right.
And
all right, so we got some good swimming examples. We can go on to the next slide and see what we can come up with. All right, I'll let you guys zoom in. So I'll see what I can do actually to make it a little bigger.
And don't forget, those watching, if you go back in the links, in the chat, you'll see the link there, both on Facebook. And if you're watching, we've got a nice, healthy size audience watching. I'm just going to do a little check of how good you all are at clicking the like button. 28
While you're
likes.
doing that, I'm going to give you hit the head. I'll be right back.
Yeah, so come on, guys. 28 likes. And in all the platforms, we've got over 150 or so watching. So lean forward in Facebook and click like. Lean forward on YouTube and click like, subscribe, and the notifications button. If you don't click that, you won't be notified of the shows. And tomorrow we have Good News Fellowship at our new channel. Good News Fellowship live every week still, but no longer here at SDAQ&A. We have our own new channel. And it's, if you type in YouTube /@ Gospel Good News Fellowship, it will come up. That's the only place we go live now with our Good News Fellowship. We're building a community there, sailing it out into the world and sharing the good news, minus the filters. So I'm not too sure who our speaker is tomorrow. I asked somebody, and I can't remember who I asked. Does anyone watching remember or want to put their hand up? But we will gather. Either way, we will gather. And I'm not sure if book club's on tomorrow or not, but that's a separate thing. So join us there. And hey, thanks everybody for your donations yesterday. I'm 2/3 paying this month's fees on the Restream and LibSim platform, and I would really appreciate just a few dollars. As I said earlier, I don't mind if I just break even, but it's hard putting in 10, 15 hours a week and going backwards. And the last couple of months I have been, unfortunately. So I'd love a little bit of support there. And I just checked too, Chris. I checked my my Patreon, and I actually have a Patreon almost totally set up. I didn't even realize how much I had done on that. So it just says here that all I have to do is click the publish page.
You could get a few things accomplished. You could get all your videos in one library, and then your patrons will be able to support you. So Facebook can't take them down.
Yeah. That's how do you get the? I'd have to re-upload them from my hard drives, or can I share links from YouTube?
I don't know. It's a good question. I'm not that familiar. I just kind of know how the system works.
I'll look into that, but and I'll offer extra things there. I was even thinking we might have some specialty nights where we can have a Star Trek night. I know there's a lot of Star Trek fans. We'll have a Star Trek Voyager night and watch a couple of episodes together. So yeah, I've been inspired. Someone asked earlier, how else can they pay and support what I do? So I'll get my Patreon going.
If we want to play the game a little bit more, Peter, you want to take a stab at any of these? These are the big categories.
Yeah, well, the mystical manipulation. I found it very difficult, as Andrea said earlier, where you have all these thoughts and ideas that you think were biblical and they are not. They come from the mystical realm. The prequel of the Bible, Ellen wrote that. She paraphrases the Bible. She has extracurricular content connected with it, and she has what happened next, like the sequel. So she's got the prequel, the paraphrased version, the sequel, and merged through it are all these mystical kind of, she's got an angel with her. She has a green cord that connects her to something or other. In her visions, they're often great landscapes of apocalyptic, mystical kind of meanings and whatnot. The demand for purity. I think it's great for people to live pure and lives that are healthy and whatnot. But it's this kind of demanding of it, a salvational reckoning. The sacred science, the group's doctrine, is seen as the ultimate truth. Questions or challenges are not allowed. And again, we've got an actual current, that book. These guys,
right.
the good guys. I shouldn't say the good guys.
I got an example of
good
that
as
one.
well.
So
Yeah.
I'll pin the tail on the donkey on this one. Sacred
In the
science.
tail. Go for it.
A friend of mine the other day told me the part of the reason he joined the Adventist church is because he didn't find any other. How did he word it? But basically, he was telling me that he didn't find any other system of Christianity that was the closest to the Bible. And I've heard that statement
I've heard
1,000 times.
Yes.
Right.
Like
to be fair, I've heard that from Orthodox and I've heard that from Catholics, to be fair. However, it was the justification for the doctrine. And then in that same breath, I said, well, what does it mean that I'm rejecting it? Am I just stupid? And if I only saw it your way, then I'd agree with you. Like, there's implications for what you're saying as this being the ultimate truth, right? And if your group's doctrine, like the definition says, kind of is the source of ultimate truth, not Jesus, which is curious because Jesus says he was ultimate truth, but the doctrine about him, then yeah, you kind of, your whatever thoughts you're having about him isn't, they kind of get dismissed or set to the side. So and I'll ask my friend, I'm like, well, wait a minute, I'm like to think I'm a little bit intelligent, and we have good conversations about this stuff all the time, and sometimes I get you to the point where you get speechless. So I do have a few good points. So if I disagree with the doctrine but you think it's the ultimate truth, like, what's going on here, right? And if the definition is kind of a controlling way of thinking. But anybody else in the audience in the chat, does anybody have any thought reform that they remember?
The back to the going out and spreading the word. Jane says, my mum said that there used to be a tally that happened in Sabbath schools. That happened in my day too. I must be the same age as your mum, Jane. And literally, the guy would get up the front and he'd say, how many articles of clothing given? And the hands would go up and he'd write it down. How many contacts made? Write it down. How many people witnessed to? Write it down. And I just used to imagine these cards getting sent off to the division or the conference and added to the stats. Adventists love the statistics. And you let me know if you see stuff there in the chat too, and I'll bring it on the screen. There's a lot of comments coming in. Actually, I can't check the
How about loading the language? Is there jargon that you guys used to use or still use? Like, I noticed when I went to a different church, I was still thinking in Adventist categories and using that type of language. And that was still a challenge to be like, no, wait a minute. Is that is that an Adventism? Is it a phrase specific to that? Yeah. So I notice when I go to church, I still have that language and that jargon
Yeah.
that defines how I'm thinking about what the minister's teaching, right, from the pulpit.
Yeah. This is interesting. So when did you officially leave?
Oh goodness, let me see.
You publicly left and wrote
I
that.
think I was leaving for like 7 years, probably. I was just leaving, but then there was like a culminating event, and I was like, no more. This is it. We took a serious issue to the church, and the church they did a bunch of this stuff in my presentation, and I was like, whoa. And then we took our issue, which was a real issue with a real member. We took that very real issue to the state, and we turned it over to the health department, and they took it so seriously that the district attorney's office calls us and says, oh my gosh, we will represent you. And we're like, wow. Oh, and we didn't even understand how serious it was until but it was this kind of things that was happening there.
But officially, when did you make that post that I saw? That's about 6-7 months ago.
Yeah, I think. Shannon, when did we officially leave?
Oh, officially?
Yeah, like sent the letter. Got me on the spot.
2020 officially?
2020, my wife is saying, officially.
Yeah. We stopped going to the church January 2019, but we didn't actually officially.
So yeah, we stopped attending church on January 2019. My wife is great at dates.
Great. Thank you, Shannon. And Mark was asking, and what I noted even when I watched our chat of 6 months ago, as I noticed in myself over the last 5 years, is the jargon Adventist type talk has been disappearing. And I noticed even with the 6 months, the way you're talking today, there's just little ways of cadence, and the way you talk is not there. So
all kinds of gems.
There's a kind of a scripted way that Adventists talk, even when they're not scripted. And pastors have the hushed tones. Hey, brothers and sisters, look, we're going to talk about a difficult topic today. As soon as people start whispering, I start going, okay, what are you trying to sell me?
Right. So yeah, there's the good examples. All right, let's go. Lisa, I think I got one more for the audience to chew on, and we'll play one last round of Pin the Tail of the Donkey. And let me put that in the screen over a little bit.
Mark
and this is about.
Sorry, go ahead.
Let me see.
Yeah, that's good.
All right. So if anybody in the group sees any of those are ones that I thought a lot about. Post in the chat, and let's see if you guys can pin the tail on the donkey. Let me see for me. Let me see. What's a good one that I thought of? Oh, are former members willing to speak about their experiences? I mean, that one applies. How do they evaluate their time with the group? Like that's a question worth asking. Like, and there's a lot. Who was it that left way back in the day that wrote some book that wasn't Adventist? I don't. Ken Wright, is that the guy's name? I don't know the history that well. But I believe he left and wrote the book of like, oh my goodness, what am I doing? This is not right. This is not the gospel, right? So if you see that pattern and it's repeating itself among people who leave, that's a good sign that there's some credibility issues with the high control group. Peter, you're muted on my end.
Sorry about that. And the high control group, instead of rebutting the claims against them, they attack the character of the person. That's a real red flag. And that's what happens again. It's been happening since Canright, right up until Ryan Day. Ryan Day, a couple of months ago.
Yeah, that poor. Yeah, they just dug into that guy. He was just
They
I think I
cannot. They
argued.
cannot address. And when the I love my little stash of books here. That's just the cover. When when they wrote a book to address this, it was called The White Truth, and I learned things in the reading that revealed even more horrible things that the church does and believes.
Oh, Jane has a
And
good one there. Jane Cross.
is this the? I remember when I was a teacher
Yeah.
at an SDA school, and we were on a school camp with one of the students being Mormon. They completely disrespected her for keeping the Lord's Day as SDAs keep Sabbath. Yeah, that's interesting. A little bit of a higher moral ground kind of vibe, isn't there?
Right.
This is
Yeah.
great. This pin the tail on the donkey. We should do this more often. I love hearing what people in the audience.
Yeah. I figured they might have, because all of the questions that I ended up posting for the last 3 parts are the ones that I have a story that would demonstrate the idea.
Each one, yeah, and that keeps the conversation going too while people are thinking. Yeah, what was the next one? The some good ones there. What accomplishments are presented? Is there a track record that can be checked? Have there been results? Are they measurable?
Right. And like someone had to hack the estate. Like, just let that sink in. Somebody had to hack the estate to
I've
get info
interviewed
that
him,
people wanted.
Brendan
Right,
Valley.
right.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, is there a track record that can be checked? Are the results, are they measurable? Are there proof to these claims? Like, that should be way public. But anyway, hopefully you guys can just kind of see how these definitions, they're broad and they cover a lot of areas, but I think they can be demonstrated that they happen a lot in a high control group. And that's the end of the presentation.
Mate, thank you. What a great chat today. Covered a lot of ground. I interrupted and got us off track a few times. That's to be expected.
We all expected that. Yeah.
We're like chatting at the cafe. And yeah, really appreciated that today. So, well, until next time, it'd be fun to do. I did a chat with Andrea McMahon the other day about the scapegoat. Adventists believe the scapegoat was Satan. And even though Ellen confirms all those teachings with vision and the Bible doesn't, and some of the things about it, like the scapegoat had to be pure and innocent to be given the sins. And if Satan's the scapegoat, well, what is that symbolizing? That he was pure. There's so many things wrong with it, but no one will address it and say it's wrong.
To learn like the other perspectives. Like, I think that would have been more helpful. Like, if, at least for me, like I would have liked to learn, like, okay, well, what's another Christian view, instead of having just the cult definition of like, this is the right way to believe and our doctrine is the only doctrine and we're the most correct and God picked us special. And right, when anybody says only, listen, cult should ring in your ear. If somebody says I'm the only one, predator. If we have the only true doctrine, predator. Like, if they say only and me associated with only, like, buyer beware. Like that.
Yes,
that's a big thing that we've learned.
Yeah. Well, look, and what I was going to say is that I've been working on doing a PowerPoint based on that chat and just distilling it down even more. We could even come back at another stage and distill down into bite-sized chunks and make them bigger on the screen. Just be fun to kind of review this again, because it's the real touchy. What's the word for it? It really, I don't want to use certain social media words, but it really gets people's backs up if you infer that the Adventist Church has some cultic tendencies. So yeah, it'd be interesting to do this again.
I have an idea for maybe another future visit, and I just wanted to run it by you. And
Yeah.
I think the audience might appreciate this. I think I would. So in Adventism, you're taught here's another cult idea, right? You're taught that creeds and catechisms and creeds and confessions have no place in Adventism whatsoever. And you're told they have their 28 fundamental beliefs, but we won't call that the same. We'll call it something different. But what I noticed, and when someone, I was just told as an Adventist that those were wrong somehow. And so I never read them. I never looked at them. I never looked at any other confessions or catechisms or creeds at all. And then someone challenged me, and I was like, well, why don't I just go see what they have to say? So I went through probably 28 different confessions, catechisms, and creeds over 2,000 years. And I specifically focused on the section of the gospel. And I got into, this is a conversation I had with a friend in the church. And I said, well, this is the thing that matters the most, right? This is the gospel is the thing that matters. And my bet is that all these historical religious churches over time agreed on the gospel. That's what I had bet. And he's like, no, they're all divided, right? Because in Adventism, you're taught that they're all divided, that they're Babylon. That they don't,
yeah.
Right. So I said, okay, well, why don't we go find out? And so I had this big text chain with my friend, and I just started spamming every catechism I could find. And I would list the year that they had it, and I would list the gospel section. And I just kept comparing. I'm like, here's one from 100 years later. Here's another one from 100 years later. Here's another one from 100 years later. And I would name the confession, and it would name the religious tradition. And it's, man, you can see a connected chain of gospel all the way through the last 2,000 years. And then he posted, which is very ironic, he posted the Adventist confession or catechism of the gospel. And I was like, precisely my point, buddy. What you just posted is completely different than. And I even picked on the Waldenses because those are the favorite fanboys of the Great Controversy, right? The Waldenses. Well, I brought up the Waldenses confession, posted their section on the gospel, and it's radically different than,
Wow.
But that would dispel
that would be a great program to do that.
Right, that somehow the other ones didn't know the gospel and we had to bring it back. Because that's a myth. That's a cult myth you hear in Adventism, that the gospel was lost and we had to restore it. And that turns out not to be true.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's why they often link Des Ford to being the Luther of Adventism,
That's funny.
to try and correct the many.
He's a good guy. Like, if he's the Luther of Adventism, we should probably pay attention.
Yes, exactly. And people should have. And a lot of people did. These guys did. Let me hold it up one more time.
Yeah, those guys, they're going to have to give you marketing money.
Yeah, I got to get a percentage if they ever get it. If they ever get it for sale again. But they loved him and followed him, but they didn't get behind him like Protestants. Later we call them Protestants. They didn't get behind him. So if they were really thought that he was the Luther, they should have fought harder, and they didn't. They went underground or they left. And it was very sad, very sad. But for Adventists to claim that they are correcting what the Dark Ages
of the gospel, right? Like, an everlasting gospel that nobody ever heard of or talked about at all.
I know.
You can't add an adverb to a word that already exists and has a definition and then say, see, it's different.
Yeah, it's pure reverse engineering because nothing happened October 22.
Don't tell
1844.
Don't tell them.
So everything revolves around that moment. Oh, it must have been this, 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 and this, and they build this house.
So that Whitney Cross book, about the history, that fanaticism was all over that territory of the burnt out district.
Yeah.
It wasn't unique. And that little story I was fed, and maybe you were fed, about this unique thing that was happening in 1844, it was not unique. It was TikTok.
Yeah,
it was everywhere. There were multiple groups that were having these crazy. They would literally compete for Converse. That was like the thing to do. You would go down to the local camp meeting, and they would brag about how many people they pulled in from the Baptist or pulled in from the Presbyterians, and it was
Yeah.
a thing. Like they
Yeah.
just would. Yeah, and so you had
Disruptors.
to have you had to have the most outrageous TikTok in order
Yeah.
to bring in the.
I've often said it was like a circus. These guys were carnival
It
acts.
was a circus.
Yeah,
it
they
was
would
a
literally
circus.
travel town to town, often putting up tents,
Yep.
but it was a carnival act.
Yeah,
Now, Mark,
and they were trying to get people in, and the
yeah,
more
get
people they
people
got in, they
the
thought they were
numbers.
doing the Lord's work by
Yeah,
bringing people in.
yeah.
And they were converting among other Christians, which is really curious because there's a huge push in Adventism to convert non or Sunday keepers to
Yeah.
and that I think
Yeah,
that
I
just
know.
comes
It's
from
all, yeah. Come and see my show. They're all showmen. Show people.
kind
would
of,
say today. Mark says, but Peter, Brandon wanted to respond. What happened to that plan? But Jesus said, I'm the only way and the truth. What about that? Not sure what you're meaning there, Mark. Let me know. You have to have confidence in what you believe. Be sure of it. I'm not sure. You've got a few minutes just to a few seconds to tell us what you mean there, Mark. But look, great conversation. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it, Chris. And let's do one on those, how the thread of the gospel has gone for 2,000 years, and to say that it entered into an era where it was lost is just incorrect, false information.
I brought up a confession, a Baptist confession from 1840 or 1844, like on the nose, and it was a Baptist confession on the gospel, like published a couple days before 1840, something like that. I don't remember the exact date, but I was like, even 4 years before this culminating event, the Baptist still had a published confession with the gospel clearly laid out, and you can trace them all the way back. So,
yeah, interesting. And Mark, thanks for reminding me. You are right, Mark. Responding to the scapegoat crew. Not Brandon, Brendan. So Brendan has literally written to me during this program. I saw a message pop up. Remind me, Mark, who did I say Brendan should talk to? Was it you? I can't remember, but Brendan Valiant, who is the guy that hacked the Ellen White estate, he believes that Satan was the scapegoat. It's interesting that he hacked the White estate but loves Ellen White, and in some ways revealed a lot of
he's a
negative stuff.
fanboy. He's a fanboy. He wanted all these. So that's what a groupie
had
does.
it all there and just deal with it, which I kind of like. I'd rather it all out there. Oh, it was with you, Mark. Oh, cool. Now, yeah, so he's all on board, Mark Anthony. Brendan is happy to do that. So maybe we can do that next week, Mark. How do we keep in touch, Mark? Is it emails? I don't know. That reminds me. Chris, are you on YouTube? Because it's really hard. Emailing for me is really difficult.
No,
so Mark,
but I mean, I can send you like a number. I can send you my phone number for texting if that's easier.
That's easier.
So I'll just send it to
good.
the email, and then that way you can have it on file or whatever.
Perfect. That's great. And the other thing is, what's happened to James Andres? If anyone, I haven't seen him for a long time. If anyone knows where he might be at, let me know as well. Oh, Mark, you are on Facebook. That's right. Shoot me a Facebook message ASAP, and I will get back to you, and we'll create a group with Brendan. Brendan has agreed. We might even be able to do it next week. That'd be fun. Well, we will leave it there. Thank you, Chris. Until next time, say bye to Shannon for us, and let's do a show in a month on that topic we talked about.
Sounds good.
Until next time, see you guys. See you later.